Hey everybody, it's Carpo again. And this is a separate video from the last one I just made, but I was going to include it and consider it basically a part two. And I spoke about the need to be kind, the need to help people, and these are obvious things. And what makes it difficult is when we're suffering as individuals, when we think that our lives are so hard that everyone else's must be easier. And the idea of helping others and the idea of us suffering are completely intertwined. And when you realize that there are some less fortunate and you can't justify that anymore. As an American citizen, let's say, I live in the US, any one of you watching is probably doing well enough to have a computer or at least a device where you're paying money each month for that device, meaning you have extra money to spend because you have enough food to eat. I doubt there's anyone out here watching this video that's starving, so I'm sure you can all relate when I say that there are people less fortunate than you. It's difficult to see when we are going from check to check, but maybe not even check to check, it becomes harder and harder. So what happens with this is when we're broke, we see the world as a scary place. And it's very difficult for me to explain or express what I'm trying to convey here, but I'll try to do my best. When I was growing up, let's start off with a small story. Every one of you has a friend out there who comes home from a vacation or a trip, and they call you up on the phone, or you go over to their house and you say, "Hey, how was your trip?" The first thing that comes out of their mind could be, "It was wonderful. We did this, we did that. It was a great experience." Or the first thing that comes out of their mouth may be, "Well, man, it all started off with me losing my wallet, and of course that screwed this up," and the next thing you know that they're just rambling on and on about all the negative things that happened. The same trip, the same exact experiences can have either result depending on the way that the person views his life. If you can laugh off losing your wallet and your money, if you can laugh off maybe getting into a car accident, that happened to me when I was on vacation in Florida. We got crashed into. Then the car rental company tried to charge us 13 grand, and for all this damage that never happened. It was a big scam that they had going on. And we sent them some info to talk to our lawyer, and we never heard from them again, but it didn't ruin my trip. It was just a funny event that happened. There are people who would let that ruin their entire week. And so anyway, one negative experience, this came from I've heard people say things like, "You're lucky, dude." And the other day I was telling somebody, I'm not lucky. Okay? You make your own luck. Luck is something that we attribute to great things happening to a person. Yet, we seldom consider the way that the person may have set themselves up for that luck. Now there is dumb luck, blind luck, where a person just finds $10,000. But then there's a person may say, "Hey, you're really lucky for getting that job," yet the person had been working 20 years to get a job in that particular field, and they were very dedicated. It's not always luck. When people tell me that I'm lucky to have a family, I say, it's a lot of work. I feel very lucky and very blessed, but it's also a compromise. I feel very lucky to have my wife. She is the best thing in my life. She's amazing. She's so tolerant. She loves all the things that I like, but can still be independent enough to not like some of the things, and we have our own thoughts and ideas, and we don't have to just say what the other says to agree or just to disagree. We can just speak like normal humans, and I am lucky, but we've also developed our relationship that way. So some of the luck that we have in life we create, and some of it we don't, but we have to distinguish the difference between the two. But what this leads me to is my point kind of here, which is that the world, it appears to be a scary place to a lot of people. And when the world's a scary place, we feel very unlucky. And we feel like we have to shut down from one another because we have to protect our assets, protect our interests. Like I had a conversation, I wouldn't call it a conversation, I guess, through a comment section with a YouTuber who used the word sand nigger to describe basically anyone from the Middle East, and talked about immigration being a problem. And we talked back and forth, and I said it doesn't matter how you justify the fact that immigration should or shouldn't be stopped, whether we should close our borders. He said he was talking about how I'm a traitor to my kind and I need to protect my own. And I said, here you are talking about closing the borders, What if Scottish people had a major disaster and Scotland needed to move to America? Would you allow them in? Well, they're white. Some of these arguments just totally fall apart. It's a matter of people being upset because they hear all these things on the news. They hear people talking about what's going on, and they picture millions of Mexicans jumping the fence and making a run on the country because this is what they picture, because the world appears scary. And over the last decade or so, my perspective has so much changed on the world that I can see the beauty in people now, and it's something that I've always been able to see, but I just ignored because I was always suspicious. Now, I'm not an angry person or a suspicious person, or I wasn't, I've always been very outgoing. I have always been able to talk to people, and I always give everyone a chance. Even people who have wronged me and ripped me off, I forgave them and still let them, I'd still leave them in my house alone. It's just one of those things, People are people, and even the worst people I've met that have made mistakes against me have in the end often realized the error in their ways. And by realizing that one mistake, you realize that the reason why the world appears scary is because you hear all these stories about things people have done wrong. And it's very difficult to hear stories about things that have gone right. You might hear of a biker brawl at a concert. Let's say what happened with the Grateful Dead. There was an incident where they hired the Hells Angels to be their bouncers at a concert. And it ended up being a nightmare. They beat the shit out of a whole bunch of fans, and people got trampled. It was just a nightmare. That was negative PR, and it made it appear that things like this always happened. You never hear about the thousands and thousands of Grateful Dead concerts where not a person was harmed. We always pick the worst aspects of the world to dwell on because they're the ones we want to change. It's not that we want to dwell on the negative, we want to think about the negative. It's that that's what we need to focus on because we need to change it. Yet at the same time, we're ignoring some of the more positive things that we need to prop up. Now, I see the world changing. I see people caring about one another more now. I see it easier to get people together, groups together, organizations where it's no one's a leader, where there's no way to dissolve the organization because it's a movement, it's an idea, not an establishment at a location. The world is vastly changing, and people are either going to get left behind by saying, oh, it's too crazy out there, oh, I can't handle this digital age, or you embrace that shit. I grew up reading a compass. I grew up using floppy disks long before there was the internet, but as soon as it came around, I embraced it because this is how we connect now. This is the world we live in, and it's the only way to get past some of the shallow bullshit that we've had to put up with for so long from our parents, grandparents, the old ways of thinking. Don't forget that 100 years ago, women couldn't vote in this country. Just think about that for a minute. Of course, that doesn't even include Negroes, which blacks, whatever you want to call them. I consider myself to be a very tolerant person of all races, while still embracing the fact that we're all different and the cultures are different. Xenophobia is the fear of other cultures. And that's one of the most difficult things for people to overcome. People have been oppressed for so long because of the color of their skin, or the type of their genitals, or their religion or belief system, that now people are lashing back. I mean, look at what happened with the blacks in America, for example. They were oppressed for so long that now it's legitimate for a rap song to come out where they say, fuck whitey. But if a white guy were to make a rap song saying fuck niggers, of course that would not go down too well with the PR, because we feel like we owe it, like blacks are owed that right to lash back. What we have to do is come together, not to be in constant battle. It's not a revenge thing. It's not about reparations or giving anybody money. It's about starting over, all of us together, that we all realize that we all have different needs and embrace those different needs in a world where you can go anywhere. It's limitless. We have this fearful look of places like the Middle East. A lot of people picture this war-torn land, but look at some pictures of the actual cities there. I mean, look at places that have some of they're outranking the West as far as some of the things that they're building. Places like Dubai and my point is that the world is not scary. It's moving ahead. It's progressing. And there are always going to be small factions, terrorist groups, extremists, racists, haters, that are going to make it appear like everybody's that way. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them make you think that people are that way, because that's how we close our doors to each other, fear our neighbors. Ultimately, the only chance that we have, I see in the future, as a species of making something great is to come out of our bullshit separation between one another and come together and understand that that doesn't mean that you have to just accept things all the way they are, nor does it mean that you can't, want to avoid certain cultures or customs or practices. That's just natural. But xenophobia is not acceptable, especially when we don't understand it. So, you can change your mind, and you can see the world's a positive place, and if you do, then you're able to act on that. And instead of talking about how many people are controlling us and how much pollution there is and how bad things are, the things that we are well aware of, that we are working on, you start showing the way, leading the way for people to say, this is how you move out of the fear of it and move into action. So, that's all I got.